Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube as well as on Rumble at Matt Morris TV. Today, we are back on the regular schedule, regular time, regular show, and we have, boy, howdy, a lot to talk about today. Just hours ago, in fact, the Iranian regime blew up a series of oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. And right now, I'll tell you what, President Trump is, simply put, absolutely livid. President Trump is pissed off, personally promising to hit the Iranian regime tonight harder than they have ever been hit before. What's more, the Iranian regime, as of today, a couple hours ago, is now promising, threatening to start targeting civilians. And no, I'm not joking. I'm being serious. This is not a joking matter. Targeting civilians in both their own country, inside of Iran, as well as deliberately targeting civilians in their neighboring Arab Gulf nations as well. And as a consequence, the Arab Gulf nations right this very moment are actually considering getting directly involved on the offense in this conflict. We also have some massive news pertaining to the ongoing current economic situation, the Strait of Hormuz, and global oil prices. And as a little bit of a spoiler here, the Iranian regime's plan, their objective of destabilizing the global economy, has pretty much just fallen flat on its face. I think you guys are going to like some of this news today. Do me a favor now, before we get into the show, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. I really appreciate it. We're going to do super chats at the very end of today's broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, why don't we get into the breaking news of the day? First things first, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the Iranian regime this morning blew up, they targeted and fired missiles, drones, something at a series of cargo vessels that were traversing the Strait of Hormuz. Breaking news. 3 cargo vessels this morning have been attacked by the Iranian regime inside of the Strait of Hormuz. 2 of them were damaged, while a fire broke out on the third one. And you know, we've got pictures and videos, so bear with me here, folks, forcing the crews of these 3 tankers, these 3 vessels, to abandon ship. Now, curiously here, what do you notice? You know, we're looking at 3 vessels that have been targeted by the Iranian regime. Really, only one of them is inside of the Strait of Hormuz. The others, well, we've had dozens, if not hundreds of other vessels kind of waiting on standby over here to the west of Dubai. Okay, north of Dubai. In fact, if you look at this right now, this is where all of them have kind of been clumping up for a very long time, waiting on standby to go through. So one of them was in the middle. They blew that one up. The crew evacuated. Folks, the reason I really highlight this position here, geographic position, is because the Iranian regime, no longer are they only targeting vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Now they are targeting vessels, maritime vessels, tanker vessels, off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. They're not even inside of the damn strait. So the aggression level is astronomical through the roof. The Iranian regime is just getting brazen and aggressive like we have yet to see so far. Look at those locations. It's out of this world. Now, we've got photos and videos, like I said. Iranian projectiles struck at least 3 cargo vessels over the last 24 hours in the Strait of Hormuz. Thailand's Navy from Thailand reported that most of the crew of a Thailand-flagged bulk carrier, well, they were evacuated after the vessel caught fire off the coast of Oman after being struck by Iranian projectiles. Good Lord. A Japanese-flagged container ship was also hit by an unknown projectile off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. We were just looking at that one there. Security sources said the vessel sustained minor damage, but the crew was unharmed, thank God, and the ship was heading towards a safe anchorage. Back to the port. Another bulk carrier flying the flag of the Marshall Islands was also struck by a projectile and suffered slight damage. Officials said the crew of the vessel was safe and well, and no environmental damage was reported. I mean, listen, if these tanker vessels, which are generally speaking full of oil. If they blow up, then yeah, we're talking about environmental catastrophe, oil getting everywhere. So God forbid something like that happens. You can't help but think back to the BP oil spill, whatever that was, a decade ago or more at this point, maybe 15 years ago. We've got more videos and photos here. Breaking news, Iran strikes a Thai ship attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, folks, this was that ship that was right in the middle. This is the one that was attempting to go through the strait, and they hit this one hard. I hate to say it. Thai authorities said the bulk carrier, it was called the Mayuri Nari, sailing under the Thailand flag, was struck by projectiles while traveling about 18 kilometers right in the middle of the strait, north of Oman. Now, look at that. They blew a hole right in the side of that damn thing, and you can see this. And so people, wow, that's a lot of damage. You're going to need more than Flex Seal to fix this one. Now, excuse me here. We've had people speculating all day. Was this like a torpedo? Was this an Iranian cruise missile? Was this a Shahed drone? Was this an Iranian ballistic missile? Was it, Lord, I hope not, was it a naval mine? We've been hearing a lot about naval mines from the Iranians. Allegedly, they're deploying the naval mines. Well, I actually have an answer for you later on in today's broadcast. Right now, people have been speculating all morning. We know the answer. We're going to get to that here later on in the broadcast. But anyway, the message I'm trying to convey here is, folks, so far today, the Iranians have ramped up the aggression, not only attempting to blow up vessels that are traversing the Strait of Hormuz, but also vessels that are just kind of waiting on the sidelines, hoping someday, praying that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen and then everybody can get back to their business and back to their lives. So the aggression is through the roof today. We have a photo here. A picture from the port of Salalah in Oman after the fuel depot was hit by an Iranian drone a few hours ago. Ladies and gentlemen, not only is the Iranian regime attacking tankers at a rate that we've never seen before, just to put this into perspective, 3 tankers were hit earlier today in a very short, just a couple of hours. Prior to these 3, the Iranians had hit 10 in 10 days. So maybe averaging 1 a day, 10 in a 10-day window is what the Iranians had done. This morning, they did 3. They hit 3 of them in like 2 hours. So when I say that the aggression here is just spiking, but guess what? That's not it. They're also firing drones, these explosive drones at Oman oil storage facilities, blowing them up. You see the photo right here. So the aggression is through the roof. Now, we've got a lot of news to go through here, folks. Breaking news, Iran announces that facilities associated with major U.S. technology companies could very soon become their next targets. They specifically mentioned Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, IBM, Oracle, and Palantir, all of whom are targets now across Israel, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. You know, listen, there's a lot of money in the Middle East. Qatar and Bahrain and UAE and Saudi Arabia, Israel. We've got American businesses. We've got American storefronts, American storage data facilities all over the place. They say Abu Dhabi specifically here. Okay, and so now the Iranians are saying, listen, no longer are we going to be attempting to attack U.S. military bases. Now we're going to be attacking commercial businesses, data storage facilities, etc. This is all civilian stuff. This is in the realm of civilian, sort of equipment here. So like I said, they are escalating here today. The Iranians are doing every single thing they can to escalate this. Like I said, they're also talking about massacring civilians today. You didn't believe me, and I wish this was not the case. Breaking news, this is Mohammad Reza Radan is his name, head of the Iranian regime's police force, who has today threatened to massacre protesters again if protesters take to the streets at some point in the future. And now we saw in January, this is a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, what did we see? We saw the Iranian regime butcher, massacre, slaughter right about 35,000 anti-regime protesters. Their blood was running through the streets. They butchered 35,000 of their own people. And I've looked into this. As far as I can tell, that number, 35,000, that's actually a low ball. That's the conservative estimate, approximation right there. Could be as many as 45 or 50,000. We'll say 35,000. Could be more. Could be more. The head of the Iranian regime's police force, he said, and I quote, "If people take to the streets to protest, we will do to them what we have done to the enemy. Our hands are on the trigger." He says, we'll gun them down. If you take to the streets, protesters, Iranian anti-regime protesters in Iran, if you take to the streets, we will gun you down. Just like we did to the enemy, to the Americans and the Israelis and the Arab Gulf nations. It's not just America and Israel. They've been firing their drones and missiles at all the Arab Gulf nations as well. And also the 35 or however many thousand protesters they already gunned down back in January. And whoever else before that. We've got a report here. Speaking of these Arab Gulf nations, I want to show you a video. You're not going to believe this. When I say things are escalating, I'm serious. Listen up here.
I want to be careful with my reporting here. I'm also working on a story about this, but there are conversations happening behind the scenes about possible involvement of Gulf states. They understand they're taking a massive amount of ballistic missile fire and drone attacks against not just U.S. military targets in their countries, but also the civilian population there. And so certainly this is a consideration. I've also been talking with Gulf sources, and they say there is a red line. We're trying to understand what that red line is as these attacks unfold. But the fact that we're seeing drone attacks and missile attacks against cities like Doha, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, these are areas where international tourists go. We know there were thousands of American citizens earlier in this war that had just been vacationing there. These are countries that are not used to taking this type of incoming fire, very different from Israel. And so those conversations are taking place and considerations are underway about more involvement, possibly not just defensive, but also offensive capabilities.
Offensive capabilities. Listen, low key right now, as of a couple hours ago, now all of these Arab Gulf nations are considering getting involved, working with the U.S. and Israel, not just in a defensive capacity, but in an offensive capacity. And I'll tell you why, like Trey Yingst just said with Fox News, and this would be a massive development if they do decide to get involved offensively, flying alongside U.S. fighter jets and bomber planes. They have their own small little air forces as well, getting involved on the offense. I'll tell you what, listen, these countries out here, these Arab Gulf nations, let's talk about United Arab Emirates. Do you think, here, do me a favor. Why don't we take a look at what it looks like down here on the ground? It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's wealthy. It's affluent. This is a rich people's vacation paradise, $3 million condos and apartments and whatever. Do you think the Emiratis or the Saudi Arabians or the Qataris or any of them, do you think that they want to have ballistic missiles and suicide drones raining down on top of their cities and crashing into their towers? Do you think they want to have that? No, they want to go to their Michelin star restaurants. They want to have their 5-star hotels. They want to have their nice vacations. They want to have their beachfront property, and they want to live in peace. That is what they want. That's what the Emiratis have chosen. That's what the Saudi Arabians have chosen. That is what the Qataris and the Bahrainians and the Kuwaitis, that's what all of them want. And if they don't have it, it's what they're actively pursuing. The Iranian regime, on the flippity flip, conversely, well, they've chosen rather than try to turn their country into a paradise, they have chosen to manufacture God knows how many ballistic missiles and suicide drones and naval mines and et cetera, and attempted and funding regional terror cells. So no, these guys are sick of having these missiles and bombs rain down on their country. They're like, all right, listen, it's been 11 days. It's been 11 days of this. You know what? Maybe we are going to get involved. Maybe we are going to get involved offensively. We've been playing defense here for almost 2 weeks. You know what? Maybe it's time for our own Emirati or Saudi Arabian fighter jets to get involved and fly alongside the U.S. and Israel and take the fight to them. What are they say? The best defense is a good offense. And maybe they're coming to that conclusion. Since Ali Khamenei was killed on February 28th, these following 18 countries have become targets of the Iranian regime. Azerbaijan, we've seen that. Bahrain, Cyprus, Greece, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Syria, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, United States. What is that, 18? Good God. 18 countries. The Iranian regime has actually attacked. They already have, or they have threatened to do so. They're pissing off the entire neighborhood. To say the least, they're pissing off the entire neighborhood. Now, luckily, here's some good news. I've got some good news for you folks. We got the numbers for yesterday. What numbers? How many ballistic missiles and suicide Shahid drones are the Iranian regime, are they firing every single day? Well, on day one of this conflict, February 28th, they fired 137 ballistic missiles, 209 drones. And by the way, this is data coming from the Institute for the Study of War, highly internationally acclaimed institute here. So I think we can trust their numbers here. If anybody, we can trust them. And what have you seen? Day two, they fired a whole hell of a lot of drones. The ballistic missiles, not so many though. In fact, they haven't really fired that many ballistic missiles outside of day one. They've kept the drones up pretty high, averaging 120, 125, 115. But for the last 2 days, March 9th and March 10th, I'll tell you what, they've been firing almost nothing. They can't get it up anymore. Sorry to be a little bit crude. They can barely get these drones in the sky. They can barely get these ballistic missiles up in the air. And the reason why, once again, I think we all know, we have been seeing, and we're gonna really break this down here in a moment to put this into perspective, folks, so bear with me. We have been seeing the United States and Israel, namely predominantly the United States, just blast the living hell out of the IRGC and the Iranian military. This is drone manufacturing facilities, bunker storage facilities, ballistic missile facilities, IRGC headquarters. We're blowing them up. We're blowing the missiles up. We're blowing the drones up. We're blowing the storage facilities up. We're blowing the satellite sensors up. The radar apparatus is up. Their Navy's been blown up. So they have a very hard time, the Iranian regime here. They're having some issues. They're having a tough time getting it up, to say the least. So we're going to see what they can get done today, March 11th. But they're having a rough couple days. At this point, not only do they have absolutely no defense, the United States and Israel, we are flying across the skies of Iran with complete and total impunity, meaning we can fly where we want, when we want, and they can't do a damn thing about it. What's more, beyond them not even having a defense anymore, we're dropping bombs left, right, and center, but also the Iranian regime, they can't even mount an offense anymore. They effectively have no offense. At least, not much of an offense left. That's the direction in which things are going right now. And so because of this, the Iranian regime, they have changed their policy. Their wartime strategy is now shifting. And we got the confirmation of that today. Take a look at this. Breaking news. Iran says that they are now switching from a reciprocal hits approach, tactic, to a continuous strikes tactic. And they are warning that their objective is now to drive oil prices up to $200 a barrel. I believe right now oil prices are somewhere around $85, 82, 83, 84, 85, something like that. We'll check it. We're going to talk a lot about oil later on in today's show, but that's their objective. Drive it up to 200. The details of this plan includes Iran says the U.S. will not be able to control oil prices. They also say, we won't allow even 1 liter of oil to reach the United States, Israel, or any of its partners. This is coming from an Iranian military spokesperson. Total oil shutdown. They go on to say, any vessel or tanker bound to them, to the United States, Israel, or our partners, will also be considered a legitimate target going forward, and we will be firing on them. And in fact, you know what? We've seen a little bit of that earlier today. They also say the Iranian regime seems to be shifting their military strategy as oil prices have declined. So you know what this means? Can we really break this down here? Oil prices are now 90. I think they're actually closer to 83 or 82. Now, let's break this down. Let's put this into perspective here, ladies and gentlemen. The Iranian regime's entire strategy, their entire tactic right now is to apply so much pressure on their neighbors on the Arab side of the Gulf by blasting them, bombing them, firing drones at them, that then their neighbors, their Arabian Gulf neighbors, will then turn to the U.S. and say, all right, listen, United States, I know we're on the same team here, but we are so sick of getting blasted and bombed by the Iranians. You know what? Maybe it's just better if we de-escalate this whole situation. I know the job isn't done yet. The Iranian regime is still in control. They have not completely capitulated. But you know what? Let's call it off because we're sick here in Dubai. We're sick of having suicide drones crash into our apartment complexes and our condos and whatever. So let's just call it off. That's their strategy one. Hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. In fact, all of these Arab Gulf nations are now more closely entwined and allied with the United States because they are smart. They realize what the dynamic here is. They realize that their neighbor to the north and to the east, that's Iran, the regime is psychotic. And they say, okay, listen, we got to get rid of these people. So that first strategy of the Iranian regime has totally failed. Strategy two is to attempt to cause so much economic chaos, economic turmoil, that President Trump is going to say, you know what? I'm sick of oil prices going up. The global economy's in shambles. Prices are skyrocketing here in the United States. I'm going to lose midterms. Okay, we got to pull out. We got to cancel this thing. We got to shut it down, reopen the Hormuz, let the oil flow, bring prices back down. They're hoping that they can play on some economic angle to get inside Trump's head to convince him to call this thing off. So pressure on their neighbors and economic chaos. Those are the two strategies. They're not going to blow up the U.S. They know they're also not going to blow up Israel. That's not their objective right now. It would be soon later if we left them alone long enough. But right now, they just want us to leave. They just want us to get out of town. And these are their two mechanisms, their two strategies to try to make that happen. Both of them seem to be failing. Now, let's get to some news here. Iranian drones, we talked about this a little bit earlier today, struck Oman's largest oil storage facility at the port of Salalah. Look at this. Now we've got footage of this. And so you're thinking to yourself, what did Oman ever do to the Iranian regime? Well, nothing, really, frankly, pretty much nothing. But what is one of the two strategies of the Iranian regime right now? Economic chaos. And so now they're just blowing up everybody. And right now, what are they doing? They're targeting oil-related infrastructure in Oman, of all places. What did the Omanis do to the Iranians? Nothing, really. Nothing, really. Massive fire. Massive fire. Yeah, I mean, listen, Oman, out of all the countries here in the region, we got to zoom out here. Oman was like kind of the last country out here that was even a little bit remotely still friendly with the Iranians. And so now the Iranians have just bombed the living hell out of their final regional ally, if you can call it that, all in an attempt to ramp up the economic pressure, destabilize the global energy markets, hoping that Trump will get so frustrated with slowly rising prices that he will then call off the show. Iranian decision makers threatened earlier today that they would strike Gulf nation oil infrastructure and ports should the U.S.-Israeli strikes on their ports continue or increase. Well, guess what? U.S.-Israeli strikes on the Iranian ports did increase. We are continuing to do that. And so now Iran they're going ballistic. I mean, they've already been ballistic, but now they're going super ballistic. This is how things looked earlier today in the Strait of Hormuz. Look at this. Hellscape. There's that Omani oil facility. Now, we got a warning from CENTCOM earlier today. CENTCOM speaking of Iranian ports, issued a warning saying, listen, warning, Iranian civilians, particularly port workers. If you are an Iranian that works at the port, stay away from any ports being used by Iranian military forces. This is CENTCOM. So we gave them a warning. We said, listen, hey, we are about to start targeting ports. This is some random spot on the Iranian coast. They're saying, hey, listen, if you're an Iranian here, some random Iranian civilian, and you work at this port, yeah, look at that. We just found a bunch of Iranian gunships. Well, I'll be damned, just totally randomly. So if you work at this port and there are Iranian military vessels, naval vessels, gunships at your port, you better get the hell away. Get away from the water, because these are the targets. And it's not just these type of, actual naval military vessels, but also just potentially random vessels that also could be used to lay naval mines, or that could be used as suicide naval vessels. Imagine they put a bunch of bombs on this. It looks like a tugboat. You put a bunch of bombs on the tugboat, sail it into the Hormuz and blow somebody up. The Iranian regime, they're getting psychotic. You can tell they're getting psychotic as if they already weren't. So they're saying, hey, if you're a civilian working here, you better stop showing up to work, because all of this is about to get targeted. A port like that or a port like this, all over the place. Stop showing up to work. This is the message coming from CENTCOM earlier today. Now, I want to show you here. Where did we leave off? In response to this warning from CENTCOM, a senior Iranian military spokesperson told Iranian state television that if Iran's ports and docks are threatened, all ports and docks in the region will become legitimate targets. Do you understand what that means? The IRGC, the Iranian military, have said, all right, if you're going to be blowing up our ports, if you're targeting our ports now, US and Israel, well, guess what? We zoom out. We, the Iranian regime, now we are taking aim at ports in the United Arab Emirates. Now we are taking aim at ports over here off the coast of Saudi Arabia or Qatar. So this situation continues to escalate. Now they're targeting civilians. They're targeting their neighbors. They're targeting civilians in the Arab Gulf nations and civilians domestically back home in Iran. They're targeting civilian ports. They're blowing up civilian tankers that, by the way, aren't even in the Hormuz. One of them was. They blew that one up. Now they're targeting tankers. They're not even in the Hormuz. Escalating, getting crazy, becoming psychotic. President Trump earlier today, he was asked by the media if he thought the Iranian regime has placed naval mines in the Hormuz. President Trump said, we don't think so. Trump this morning, 3 hours ago, said, no, I don't think so. We do not believe, this is from Trump, we do not believe that the Iranian regime has naval mines in the Hormuz. We also got a message here today from the JMIC, which is the Joint Maritime Information Center, the experts on the issue. If anybody would know whether or not there's naval mines out there, might be the JMIC, the Joint Maritime Information Center. They say, we have no confirmed evidence of mines in the Strait of Hormuz. We've got no concrete evidence. We have no reason to believe that there are mines in the Hormuz yet. There could be soon. They could put them out there. Keep in mind, yesterday morning, this might be about 36 hours ago now, the Iranian regime officially gave the green light to their allies, the Chinese, to sail Chinese tankers in and out of the Hormuz. Iran said, all right, we like you, China. We're going to let you send in the tankers. We're going to let you fill up with Iranian oil because you're paying us. And then we're going to let you ship it back to China. So the Iranian regime, about 36 hours ago, said, all right, China, you can come on in. It's all good. We're not going to blow you up. So try to make sense of this. Here. Does anybody think that the Iranian regime is going to start sending in indiscriminate naval mines into the Hormuz less than a day after they told the Chinese you can come in and do what you want? I doubt it, because once again, keep in mind, the Iranian regime, they've got no control over these naval mines. You send out a naval mine, you place it on the bottom of the ocean floor, the sea floor. Some of them are floating around, kind of bobbing around the water. The Iranian regime, they can't control them. You put them out there and they hit whatever they hit. They are indiscriminate, meaning they cannot discriminate between friend or foe. So yeah, if they start putting out naval mines, sure, they could blow up a tanker, they could blow up a U.S. naval vessel, or they could blow up a Chinese vessel. You don't want that. The last thing the Iranian regime wants is to blow up a bunch of Chinese vessels. China is like their one and only ally right now, because China is, throughout this entire situation, still paying them for oil. The ships are going in and out. And also, China has been giving them intelligence, satellite imagery, information, whatever else. So the last thing the Iranian regime wants is start blowing up Chinese vessels when China is their one friend, and a loose friend at that. I saw this came out. Somebody made a minesweeper game shaped in the Hormuz. We'll see how lucky I am. And it's, well, I guess that means I better not try to sail a tanker vessel through the Hormuz, because I've got pretty bad luck. And in this Hormuz, there's a lot of mines. Okay, moving on. That was pretty bad luck. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a comprehensive write-up here from General Flynn that I would like to read with all of you folks. General Mike Flynn is a patriot. I want to see what he's got to say. Sit rep. The Iran conflict. Escalation assessment. This is hot out of the press earlier this morning. Iran has crossed a significant threshold following confirmed strikes on banking infrastructure inside of Iran. That would be us that did that, or the Israelis. Iranian military sources are now threatening retaliatory action, excuse me, against United States and Israeli financial centers across the region, with specific signals pointing towards tech sector targets. This represents a deliberate strategic shift from military to military engagement toward targeting civilian economic infrastructure. Sound familiar? The Iranians are now targeting civilian infrastructure and civilians themselves. Let us be clear. A move that, of course, places ordinary American workers, employees of major technology companies, directly in the crosshair of the Iranian regime. This escalation, says General Mike Flynn, this escalation is not a sign of Iranian strength. No, it is the signature of a losing force making a desperate play. Do you agree, yes or no, in the live audience here? I would say yes, they're getting desperate. When you start gunning down civilians, you are desperate. That's not something that you do if you're in a strong position. He goes on to say, regimes that are winning wars, well, they fight on the battlefield. They do not threaten banks, financial centers, and technology campuses populated by civilian workers. The decision to escalate towards economic and civilian targets is a calculated gamble by Tehran, an attempt to generate enough global economic disruption, sound familiar, and pressure, and political pressure, to force Washington and Jerusalem to stand down before the military situation deteriorates further for them. It will not work, but it must be recognized for what it is. Iran's air defense architecture has been severely degraded following the strikes that began on February 28th, 11 days ago. Their missile and drone stockpiles are being systematically reduced. Proxy networks across Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen are fractured and operating under significant constraint. The transition in the supreme leadership, with Mojtaba Khamenei installed only days ago, creates internal uncertainty at the command level. These are the conditions that produce exactly this kind of escalatory threat loud, broad, and designed to intimidate rather than defeat. Making sense? I think so. Threatening U.S. tech sector figures and targets is significant for one specific reason. It signals that Iran is willing to accept international condemnation for targeting civilian economic infrastructure in exchange for the psychological and political impact of threatening American workers on American soil or in American affiliated facilities abroad. That is a terrorism calculus, not a military one. And that sounds about right to me. Iran is making a massive, desperate move because they are losing and they know it. The targeting of financial centers and technology infrastructure is designed to change the psychology, the psychological terrain of this conflict when they can no longer change the physical terrain. This is desperation dressed as escalation, but it is still desperation nonetheless. Do not be deceived by it. And this is coming from one of my favorite currently living American patriots, General Michael Flynn. I'm a big fan of his. And I think this is just an absolutely astute, on point, totally over the radar here, over the target assessment of what is currently happening and the very specific way in which this conflict is now escalating that we are seeing this morning. We have a video breakdown. Take a look at this, folks.
Realistically, can Iran shut the Strait of Hormuz down, or can the U.S. keep it open no matter what? Like, how does that work? I'm curious. Good morning.
Good morning. Iran no longer has any chance of shutting the strait down. There actually has been a trickle of traffic through the strait, about 50 vessels since March 1st. And you know, some of those belong to Iran's own shadow fleet moving oil to China. But remember, the U.S. has tremendous maritime surveillance and the ability to go after any Iranian ships. 50 sunk already, and you see that deliberate effort to take out some of the mine-laying vessels. That can be done by surface ships,
that's right,
Hellfire missiles, fighter jets, you name it. I think the U.S. really has complete military dominance of that strait.
You know, it appears that Iran is isolating itself more and more each day from its former allies and definitely neighbors there across the Middle East. That brings me to this CNN headline, which reads, Lebanon calls for direct talks with Israel, accuses Hezbollah of betraying the country. Lebanon's president saying that Hezbollah has no value for the country's interests. Hezbollah, of course, a proxy of Iran, funded by Iran. Can you put some perspective to this, how Iran, with its attacks on its neighbors, is really isolating itself and potentially even galvanizing the rest of the Middle East?
Neighbors that might have remained neutral, and the attacks on the UAE, just 30 miles across the strait, their closest neighbor, they share a natural gas field, to have put 1,000 ballistic missiles and drones up into the UAE, just crazy. I hear Lebanon saying they would love to be out from under the grip of Hezbollah. You know, we know Hezbollah, even though they're much diminished, still a lot of missiles and rockets stuffed into that country by Iran over the years, over the decades. And to me, Lebanon is just another great example of why our U.S. military has to wipe out Iran's military capacity. And now, as we're seeing, going after what General Kane calls the military industrial base, so that we can't have Iran fuel a Hezbollah and stoke the problems in Lebanon. Lebanon and Israel ought to be at a lasting truce. Lebanon has 600,000 displaced people. They have to move them up from the border when Hezbollah starts shooting and Israel shoots back. So it just shows you the terrible grip Iran has had on many countries in the Middle East. And I think those days are over. I'm so glad.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about demands or objectives. What are the objectives here of President Trump with this ongoing dynamic as it relates to Iran? Well, a couple objectives. No ballistic missile program. You have lost that privilege, Iranian regime. So no ballistic missile program, no Navy, no nuclear enrichment, no uranium enrichment, no drone manufacturing. We've seen what you do when you can manufacture drones. That's not allowed anymore. No funding terror proxies across the region. Talking about Hezbollah or the Yemeni Houthis or Hamas. What's more, no destabilizing economic activity. We're not going to allow you to be in a position to destabilize economic activity in the region or the world at large. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz. So those are, as things currently stand, those are President Trump's big demands. Now, speaking of President Trump, we have some information coming from him earlier this morning. President Trump, he said, the war with Iran will end soon. This is hot off the press this morning. He said the war in Iran is going to end soon because there is practically nothing left to target. What does that mean? It means we've already blown everything up. We've almost blown every damn thing up. What else are we going to bomb? We're running out of targets. Details include Israeli and U.S. officials say they are preparing for at least 2 more weeks of strikes in Iran. 2 more, at least. A couple more. Little this, and Trump said, quote, little bit of this, little bit of that. Anytime I want it to end, it will end. If we want it to end, we can end it. Might be 2 more weeks or so. U.S. has received intelligence that suggests Iran has started laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, but so far, we have yet to see that happen. That's coming from Trump and also the Joint Maritime Information Center. On top of that, officials say it is unclear how many mines Iran has deployed so far. Well, this report here is a little bit out of date because, like we said, we've got from Trump, the Trump administration, and an independent organization, the Joint Maritime Information Center, said there's no mines. Not yet. They could, but we know they have them. We know that they do have them, but that we've got no reason to believe that they have deployed them so far. Trump's timeline for the war puts us at the end of March. Folks, by the end of this month, this conflict could be over. More information here coming out. This is posted by the official White House page over here on X. The U.S. military, they say, is delivering devastating power against the Iranian regime. We will not stop until the military objectives are met. Those are the objectives we just talked about a moment ago. Oh my good Lord. 5,500 targets struck inside of Iran, including 60 ships. Okay, can we do some math here? Bear with me here, ladies and gentlemen. In 10 days, 5,500 targets have been struck inside of Iran. What does that mean? Divide that by 10. Every single day of this war, we have struck 550 targets per day, 24 hours in a day. That's 23 strikes per hour, 60 minutes in an hour. That is 1 strike every 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the United States. I don't even think we're not even talking about Israel here. This is the U.S. exclusively. Every 3 minutes of every day, every hour of every day for the last 10 days, we have carried out 1 targeted strike on Iran. Every 3 minutes. That pace is unheard of. There has never been a conflict ever in all of world history, human history, where there has been a more aggressive campaign than this. The pace is just unrelenting. It really is astounding. It's astounding. I don't think that anybody would have expected a pace like this. We have a report coming out of Israel. Israel assesses that President Trump is not close to instructing an end to the war, according to 2 Israeli officials that spoke to Reuters. A senior Israeli official also acknowledged that there is no certainty the war will lead to the collapse of Iran's clerical regime. So perhaps we are not going to have regime collapse. Perhaps the objective now is just to bomb them so hard that the Iranian regime some of them might still be sticking around by the end of this thing, that they will be unable to do anything to mount a retaliation or an offense or do anything because we have so sufficiently bombed them into the ground. All the drones, all the bombs, all the manufacturing facilities, everything, the leadership facilities, the bunkers, the complexes, all of it, destroy all of it and then leave. That might be where this is going here, as a heads up. That might be where this is going. And now this Israeli intelligence says that Trump is not close to instructing an end to the war. Well, we heard from the other report that Trump has maybe another 2, could be 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, 2 weeks at a minimum. We're going to keep on doing this. And once again, this is coming from Reuters, so maybe take that with a pinch of salt. What else have we got here? Just in response to all of this chaos that the Iranian regime has been causing today, blowing up tankers, blowing up the Omani oil storage facility, threatening civilians, both in their own country and abroad, Trump says this, and I quote, "We haven't finished the job in Iran yet. We are going to hit them hard." The job is not over yet. This is President Trump 2 hours ago. Tonight, and it's nighttime now in the Middle East, by the way, mind you. Tonight, we are hitting them hard. The job is not finished yet. Folks, let's talk about oil. Everybody's talking about the economic aspects of this entire dynamic. Well, an organization called the International Energy Agency, otherwise known as the IEA, earlier today, a couple hours ago, in fact, has approved the release of 400 million barrels of crude oil reserves in an effort to keep oil prices low, to lower oil prices. This is the largest emergency release of crude oil in history. It's never been done at this volume before. 400 million. Okay, can we put that into context here? Well, 400 million barrels of crude oil equates to 19 days worth of Persian Gulf oil exiting the Strait of Hormuz. Under normal conditions, how oil is coming out of the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz, well, this release, 400 million, equates to 19 days worth of Persian Gulf oil coming out of the Strait under normal conditions. Now, what's more, I want to share some information with you guys. Let's pull up Google Maps here. This is Saudi Arabia, and this is the United Arab Emirates. We're going to have those up here right in the middle. Both the Saudis and the Emiratis actually have some smaller pipelines that regularly are not actively used, but they exist nonetheless. And the Saudis and the Emiratis are now going to be using these smaller pipelines to redirect oil from the Persian Gulf all the way across into the Red Sea. Ultimately meaning, check this out, this number is important. Ultimately meaning, by nature of diverting this oil, they can't divert 100% of it. The pipes aren't big enough. They don't have enough pipes. But what they are able to do is divert right around 40% of Persian Gulf oil that is now 40% that's going to be redirected to the Red Sea. So it's better than nothing. That's 40%. That's better than a punch in the eye. What's more, right now, it is estimated that right this very moment, here's the Hormuz. At this very moment, the best guesses suggest that right around 6% of regular Persian Gulf oil is still making its way through the Hormuz. These vessels, these tankers are flipping their transponders off. They're still filling up, some of them, the brave ones, or maybe the crazy ones. 6% of regular traffic is still making its way through. That's the information I can find. So what this means is that in total, as things currently stand, the Iranian regime, you've got 40% routing out this way, another 6% still making their way through the Hormuz. What that means is that as things currently stand, the Iranian regime has only been able to shut down right around 11% of the world's global oil supply. 11%, because keep in mind, under normal circumstances, 20% of the world's oil supply comes out of the Persian Gulf. That's the normal dynamic. And so now the Iranian regime has shut down about 11% of the total oil supply, which is still not good. It's not ideal, to say the least, but it's not exactly this economic catastrophe, economic doomsday that many people had originally expected. You saw on last Sunday night, you saw crude oil futures spike up to $115. Everybody was losing their mind. Well, Monday morning, because Trump was talking about helping the Hormuz remain open, how he's going to get involved, the U.S. Navy, he's blowing out these mine-laying boats, etc. We saw that spike of 115, the crude oil futures, is now actually back down to about 86 or 85, something like that. So there was a massive panic. Now it's slightly less of a panic as everything is kind of settled out. We still want to get it back down even lower, but it's not economic doomsday like a lot of people were kind of predicting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is something else I want to share with you today. You guys know I'm a little bit of a history buff. If you will allow me to give you a little bit of a world, namely American, history lesson, if you will allow it. The year is 1786. The radically Islamic Barbary pirates operating out of the north coast of Africa had spent several years attacking, pillaging, and destroying U.S. trade vessels in the Mediterranean Sea, killing and enslaving, yes, enslaving hundreds of American sailors and merchants in the process. For years, as this went on in the Mediterranean, the European superpowers at the time had proven to be totally incapable, or perhaps disinterested, in stopping these Islamic Barbary pirates from destabilizing commerce, projecting their power and their presence across the entire region, and terrorizing all of their regional neighbors. In fact, they were blackmailing and extorting them. During this time period, the United States of America, still in its infancy, keep in mind it's 1786, didn't really have much of a navy to speak of at the time. We didn't have much of a navy with which to defend ourselves. In fact, it wouldn't be until 1801, 15 years later, that President Jefferson would actually go to war with these Islamic Barbary pirates. But still, in 1786, our soon-to-be first president, he actually wasn't president yet, that wouldn't happen for another 3 years, a guy whose name is George Washington, you might have heard of him, he wrote the following. This is a direct quote from George Washington 3 years before he became our first president. He wrote, and I quote, in such a liberal age, how is it possible that the great maritime powers of Europe would submit to pay an annual tribute to the little piratical states of Barbary? Would to heaven we had a navy able to reform those enemies of mankind or crush them into non-existence. This is Washington. In this quote, George Washington, in essence, what he says is that if the United States had a navy at that time, what he would have done is use it to either reform or crush into non-existence these Islamic Barbary pirates, putting an end to their terroristic and exploitative activity in the Mediterranean, terrorizing not just Americans, but everyone in the region, interfering with commerce, messing everything up, for lack of a better phrase. The reason I share this little tidbit of American history with you is because now, after sharing that with you, I want to ask you all a question. What do you think George Washington would be doing right now about the Iranian regime? Given what he said about the Barbary pirates, who were similarly radical Islamic terrorists of their time, what do you think Washington would be doing right now about the Islamic regime? Well, I think we all know the answer. He would put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in today's broadcast, what I would love to do is take a look at some super chats. Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially back on our regular schedule. For the last 10 days, we've been doing 8-hour-long broadcasts, 10-hour-long, 12-hour-long. Now we're back on the regular schedule, 11 a.m. Western, that's 2 p.m. Eastern. Welcome to the show. This is how we normally do things. We're back on the regular grind. And folks, what I want to do now is actually pull up our super chats, and I want to see what you fine ladies and gentlemen have had to say about today's broadcast and about today's news. If you have not already, do me a favor, please. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. It really does help a lot on YouTube, both and on Rumble. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe before you forget about it. And I'm going to pull up these super chats, and we're going to go through them. I apologize. I have a little bit of a cough today. Allergy season or something. Our very first super chat here is from Kurt Braten. I can tell, wir haben ein Deutsch Zuschauer. Willkommen in mein stream. Thank you very much. He says, thanks for covering. Didn't expect that. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much. You did kleine Deutsch, a little bit. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that very much. Dankeschön. Sheba Cat says, good morning. Good morning, Sheba Cat. You're an American. You're all the way. I'll speak English to you. Oh, my goodness. What am I doing? It's been so long since we've done a regular show that I forgot our protocol. I forgot how to do it. I forgot how to do this thing. Thank you very much. I apologize, everybody. I apologize. Sorry about that. Sheba Cat, thank you. Good morning. Vaughn, he says, didn't they claim they'd continue to strike for 3 hours yesterday and then nothing happened? Nothing but talking out of their asses. Yeah, they talk a lot. They talk a lot. They issue a lot of threats. Although, listen, today we saw, I hate to say it, they delivered in a terrible, violent way. They targeted 3 different civilian tankers, and they also blew up the Omani oil storage facility. So, 99% of the time it is talk. 1% of the time, I guess they actually do something. Today, this morning was the one time that they do something. And I wish they didn't. You're from New Zealand. Hey, we have a Kiwi in the chat. Thank you. Kevin Stankiewicz, he says, I want to see our Gulf Arab allies help secure the Strait of Hormuz by freeing the ethnic Arab but Iranian islands of Hormuz. Iraq and Keshem, with U.S. Marine help, let Arabs free Arabs. Can I tell you something? One theory I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, let me know what you think, is that Trump has actually been instructing both the Kurds and our Arab allies to not get involved. Do not get involved. And one of the reasons why, the premier reason why Trump has been saying, all right, Arabs, don't get involved yet. Kurds, don't get involved yet. Azerbaijanis, stand down. I know you're mad. The reason why is because there is a concern of an Islamic civil war breaking out. Keep in mind, although it seems to be most people in Iran do not support the regime, they are still Shia Muslims. And everybody else in the region is Sunni. And sometimes they've got some issues. They've got some problems. They've got religious disputes. And so if you have a bunch of Sunni Muslim countries attacking the Shia Muslim country, the concern is that this could backfire and you piss off all the Shias in Iran and then you push them closer to the Iranian regime as sort of a defense recoil, as a recoil response. You don't want to push the Iranian people into the arms of the Iranian regime and build some type of solidarity movement. And so that is one of the ideas I've heard, which I'm sure this would make some amount of sense. To what degree, I don't know. But I think that might be a component here. And keep in mind, Trump has been giving these people the red light. All right, listen, Kurds, we know you want to go. Azerbaijanis, you want to get involved. Stand down, wait. Stand down, wait. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. But you know what? Things might have escalated so much at this point that maybe we are on the cusp of all bets being off. Could be. Camaras, he says, Iran already plans to destroy all oil production. Maybe so. Camaras, thank you. Thank you very much. The Gaming Murph, he says, CENTCOM just hit the Iranian civilians with the classic, don't come to work tomorrow. Yeah. Hey, if you work at the dock, take the day off, take the week off. Maybe you can just listen, you need to find a new career, pretty much. Thank you very much. Gaming Murph, thank you. Austin Phillips, he says, Iran is in the Stone Age now. Maybe by the end of the night, it will be. Yeah. Trump, I'm telling you, Trump is not happy. Trump is not happy that the Iranians are actually really aggressively now blowing up tankers. Trump is not happy. And I'll tell you what, considering Trump is what is he? Oh yeah, he's the commander-in-chief of the United States military. Personally, I wouldn't want Trump to be mad at me. Okay? Because if he says go, you know they're going. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, Mr. Trump. We're cool. It's all cool. Jesse Smith, he says, sending love from the Strait of Hormuz as I traverse it with my WoW-themed paddleboard. Surfs up. Cowabunga. I wonder what it's like surfing the Hormuz. Surf the Hormuz, bro. Cowabunga, dude. Thank you very much, Jesse Smith. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Lee Cranmurray says, Matt, I've been with you for 10 or 11 days. When are you going to buy me lunch? Keep up the great coverage. Hey, listen, you got it backwards. Hey, it's the opposite. No, thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. Mr. Cranmer, thank you very much. And thank you. I'm happy you found your way here. Austin Phillips, he says, leaders should look to Churchill's legacy in times like this. Maybe so. Thank you, Austin Phillips. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe just minus the alcoholism. Minus the alcoholism. Thank you very much. We have Captain Danny Barrow. He says, as a USMM officer, I can tell you that Iran will severely upset China if Iran lays naval mines in the strait. China is Iran's largest customer, and Iran cannot afford such a move long term. See, that is where I arrived, and I'm happy somebody that actually knows, like, definitively what they're talking about. You chime in and you give your input here, because for me I'm just like, this does not make sense, right? But hey, I'm just a random guy. So we have an expert. He says, you're right. That makes sense. Okay, good. Okay, good. We got the confirmation. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Corey Trevor, he says, checkmate China. Checkmate China. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. China's not happy. They are disproportionately negatively impacted by this entire dynamic. So far, Iran is perhaps the number one loser. China is a close second. Have you guys seen the video today? There are lines at the gas pumps in China. There's already, allegedly, it's hard to know exactly what's coming out of China, but allegedly there's videos. I've seen them. There are cars lining up at the gas stations. Everybody's panicking in China because they know if there's not already, there is about to be a mass shortage of oil, gasoline, benzene, petrol, whatever you want to call it, in the great nation of China. People are panicking. They're panicking. Static Bandit, he says, Matt, are you muted? No sound on YouTube. Sometimes YouTube, this is a YouTube problem. There's YouTube buffering issues. That's YouTube. It sucks. Seems like we never have those problems on Rumble. So if it really bothers you, go to Rumble. But I will tell you this, anytime there's some buffering or audio issue on YouTube, if you reload, all you have to do is reload the broadcast and it'll solve it just like that. So if I'm ever sitting up here and I look like this, if you can't hear me, reload and you will be good. This happens all too frequently. So, but there's the way. I hit the reload and you're all good. Restart the app, whatever you're on. Yeah. No, hey, everybody, make sure to hit that follow button and make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help a lot. We're back on the normal schedule now. Don B. Jesus' Life says, there are active drones right now taking IRGC on streets at their so-called checkpoints because they are so stupid and obvious who they are. Hey, thank you, Don B. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Gold Hugh says, Aloha Snack Bar. Hey, I'm happy you're here. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Man, I really enjoy these 8 or 9 or 10 hour long broadcasts, but also I'm happy we're back and doing the regular show. Don't you kind of miss the regular show? It's like, it's condensed, it's action packed, it's right to the point. There's no wasted time. There's no fluff. There's no rambling. It's just boom, go get the information out there. It's right there. I really like doing these shows too. I like it all. I'm happy we're back on the schedule. Ghost Outcast, he says, I have been hearing some nonsense about a Chinese radar ship in the Gulf. I have, and that seems to be true. That seems to be the case. There is a very expensive, cutting-edge, state-of-the-art Chinese intelligence observation vessel that is just floating in the Gulf, collecting data, collecting information, observing U.S. vessels, observing Iranian activity. The Chinese are watching very closely. They're paying attention. The Chinese are paying attention. You can bet your sweet behind. But yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true. Final, hold up, one more. We have a Rumble rant. This is from Gizzy, says, love your stuff. Found you a week ago, and I'm enjoying your common sense to the full. Gizzy, thank you very much. These days, listen, Gizzy, I'll tell you what. I'm getting a little bit mad because a lot of people that I used to watch, commentators, political commentators that I used to enjoy watching, man, have you noticed everybody's lost their damn mind? Have you folks noticed everybody is going crazy? These people are hysterical. Everybody has become hysterical lunatics. Oh my God. It's like, relax, take a deep breath. Calm down. Take a deep breath here. Take a deep breath. People are going insane. Thank you very much. Jess Larkin says, my husband and I watch and listen to you every day. Thanks for all you do from your neighbors in Montana. Well, hey, boy, howdy. We're probably not too far. We really are neighbors. Thank you very much. Well, listen, Jess Larkins, shout out you and your husband. Thank you both very much for tuning in. I appreciate that. That's excellent. Thank you very much. I'm happy you found your way here also at some point. Listen, hey, I don't know where you guys come from. I don't know how you got here, but I am happy you got here. I don't know where you came from or how you found the show, but I'm happy you did. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a wrap for our first broadcast back. We're back on schedule. We're back doing the regular show. Thank you all very much for being here. Really, I appreciate it, man. Can you tell I'm excited today? I'm so happy to be back doing the regular shows. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. The super chats, the Rumble rants, the new followers, I don't even know. People that liked the broadcast, all of it. You know what? Hey, listen, on the final note of the show here, folks, if you are an American history lover, if you like that little historical throwback talking about the Barbary Pirates, do me a favor, like that post, follow the page on X, follow that X page, like that post, follow it. Anyway, I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go get some lunch. Thank you all very much for tuning in. God bless. Stay safe. Thank you all very much for being here. We are praying for a positive outcome with this ongoing, ever-evolving dynamic, and we hope that we're going to see that. So thank you all very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow.